Hi, let me regale you with a tale about an animal that can be found in the wilds of all over the internet. The commie-boo. They are mercurial creatures for sure, often lacking in self-awareness. They can be found in places like Reddit, Tumblr, Twitter, and yes, even YouTube, using the very thing they despise, capitalism, to espouse the glories of communism. They get their multicolored hair and piercings in a tizzy when you tell them it's straight bullshit. Today, we're going to take a giant crap on the head commie's eeny weeny, tiny weeny T-14 Armata tank. I'm Zero Option, and this is another episode of A Tanker's View.
Сука, блядь!
So, you may be wondering why in the seven hells I'd bring up commie boos if I'm talking about the T-14 main battle tank. Well, for one simple reason. They love to talk this tank up if it would single-handedly storm across the Atlantic, destroying everything it sees while blasting Sika Blat from its loudspeakers. Well, experience and our own senses can smell that megaton of Soviet-loving horseshit from across the folded gap, so before I continue on for 5 more minutes, tossing non-stop anti-commie non-sequiturs left and right, I'm going to break down where I'm going to take you on this little journey. As usual, I like to start the video with a little bit of a history lesson. You know, I gotta pad that runtime, get that sweet attention. Let's face it, you're not here for my formerly chiseled features and my soothing baritone voice. So, where were we? Right, history. So, Russia, and by extension the Soviet Union, have always had a rather unique style of warfare. They're gonna throw everything at a wall and see what sticks. Not a bad idea when your army and peers are at a level where your most technologically advanced tank components are stabilizers and first generation IR systems, or autoloaders. Not exactly the method you want to employ when you're building a sophisticated digital fourth generation tank. Now, I'll preface this by saying I'm not just offhandedly shitting all over Russian engineering prowess. Crippling economic sanctions and a non-stop diet of state-engineered propaganda have resulted in a brain drain that have left the T-14 with rather lofty ambitions, but likely underwhelming results. Russia has never employed a standard chassis design for heavy track vehicles, preferring to design their main battle tanks to the situation, as the trade-offs for standard platforms used to be too costly when employing it as such, i.e. the placement of the engine, turret ring location. These things tend to shift around on a standard chassis when you're switching it up between like a self-propelled gun or an IFV. Now, after rather costly wars in Chechnya, Russia scrapped its T-90 tanks, which were more in line with older Soviet doctrine, lower profile turrets, etc. Because rather than updating their urban warfare doctrines, Russia decided the tank was the problem and decided to give us the T-14 instead. A tank so revolutionary, so mind-blowingly awesome and advanced that every NATO tank would just explode at the mere sight of it, lovingly handcrafted from the bosom of Putin himself. Well, let's take a look under the hatch and see if we can sort the bull, shall we? Given the secretive and overly propagandized nature of Russian military procurement, finding hard facts on the T-14 or even any really detailed hard data related on the 4 that were deployed to Syria, allegedly. So far I've taken what I can find and tried my best to relay things as close to reality as I kind of saw. Chassis. The Armata in the T-14 Armata is the actual universal chassis system. It's currently used in the T-14, the BMPT Terminator, and the 2S-35 Kolotsoya self-propelled artillery piece. It contains a crew compartment for the commander, the driver, and the gunners, all in one centralized armored capsule, either up front or in the rear, depending on the location of depending rather on what model of Armata is being used. So, the engine is a CHTZ 12H360 A85 3A diesel engine cranking 1500 horsepower or 1100 kilowatts, giving the vehicle a range of approximately 500 kilometers, allegedly, with a maximum speed of 80 kilometers an hour. Now, 80 kilometers an hour, I could believe on road or whatnot, and it's not entirely unreasonable under, just produced from factory conditions. Hell, I've had my Leopard 2 up over 80 on more than one occasion. I think we topped out at 86 was the highest we ever got our Leopard going downhill in Afghanistan. But so we all know that field range is probably going to be closer to 75 or 65% of that once you factor in cross country, idle time, etc. There's a whole lot of factors that go into it that rather reduce the range of the vehicle, but we all see how that can go in the near future maybe. The biggest selling point on the chassis system is the single encapsulated crew compartment I mentioned earlier, which is also allegedly has a toilet according to some sources. And let me tell you, taking a shit in the field is hard enough as a tanker. Doing so inside the confines of a crew compartment is a whole new level of crew intimacy no one is prepared for. And this is the Army talking. We shower together. So I really don't know whether to chalk that up to a pro or con, but there it is, as you say. There are cameras mounted all throughout the hull to give the crew 360-degree coverage on hatches down operations. Nothing is mentioned of anti-obscurants like wipers or the like compressed air to blow dust off, but it's not surprising that that might be an oversight given the Russian nature of this vehicle. The armor is a classified ceramic steel composite with Russia's next generation Malachite ER8 explosive reactive armor system, which is supposedly be able to defeat tandem warheads or even kinetic penetrators, although this yet has to be seen, demonstrated, or even proven. And given that what we've seen in Ukraine, that a lot of these ERA components seem to be filled with, well, cardboard and the like, well, we'll see. Adding on to the armor, you see what I did there, Russia is also claiming this tank has limited stealth capability from radar and thermal, with the application of radar-absorbent paint and placement of the exhaust systems. Seems a little excessive given that current sensor systems employed by NATO and its allies, but this is certainly probably more to give the crew the warm and fuzzies, kind of like a painted on coke cage. Turret. Here's where we see even more departure from old school Soviet design. The turret presents a much higher profile in comparison to older Russian models. This is due to the addition of a radar-controlled anti-aircraft gun, a 360-degree Commander's Hunter-Killer sight. The AA gun is a 12.7 by 108mm cord with 300 rounds. Supposedly the system's capable of intercepting missiles and slower projectiles. Coupled with the Afghanet hard kill system and the Nistali hemispheric coverage system, it would appear that the Russians might have learned a thing or two from previous engagements, or by studying NATO's protracted wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. They've built something quite similar to the Trophy active protection system, using a millimeter wave radar and explosive projectiles mounted to dispensers around the turret to defeat oncoming projectiles. It's theorized that this is a possible fragmentation type charge as opposed to a shape charge on the Trophy. Now, I've spent forever in internet terms looking all over to find out what kind of projectiles this Nistali fires out of its VLS cells, but it's referred to as a soft kill system, so I'm going to assume that this has to be some sort of chaff, smoke, or infrared decoys, but what the fuck do I know? I'm no expert, I'm just an asshole with a YouTube channel and some experience and a real axe to grind. And finally, the main gun. Remote controlled 2A2 1M 125mm smoothbore cannon with 45 rounds, of which 32 are in the autoloader. This is essentially the main gun from the T-90 and its accompanying autoloader. We again know how I feel about autoloaders. Everyone and their dog knows. I mention it every video. I'm not going to belabor the point any further. So the gun can fire a penetrator at 1980 meters per second up to 1,000 meters, losing only a mean velocity of 80 meters per second past that, allowing the projectiles to penetrate 1,000 millimeters of rolled homogeneous armor at 2,000 meters. It's also capable of firing anti-tank guided missiles and anti-air guided missiles from its main gun from a range of 100 meters out to 12 kilometers. But again, there's no data on how ruinous that is on the barrel and the gun system. That's a lot of numbers I just whipped out like vodka at midnight, but what it really all means is, aside from being remotely controlled, this really isn't going to be any more effective gun system than, or even superior to, its current NATO counterparts. So what happened? So, to wrap this all up, what exactly happened here with the T-14? Well, there's a lot of speculation, a lot of news out there. And ultimately, a complete lack of domestic technological infrastructure to manufacture the high-tech components the T-14 requires has essentially killed it in its infancy. Add to that crippling economic sanctions in place since 2014 and a massively increase since Russia's illegal invasion of the Ukraine has led to a complete shortage of parts and money to even do a full test production run of 100 tanks. They say they've got a supposed full test squadron, and rumors but speculation place that closer between 12 and 24 total. So maybe a full squadron, maybe half a squadron, we'll see. So that makes them a very scarce resource and one hell of a prestige kill if they get lost in the Ukraine or any battlefield, especially now with so few of them left. I don't think we'll see this particular Russian bear on any battlefield in the foreseeable future, and really the fault lies with the Russian political machine. They think they can keep swinging their weight around like they still have the same diverse level of manpower and strategic resources they did as the former Soviet Union. Instead of recognizing themselves as the kind of burnt out shell of the former self, they are. Realistically, the T-14 in its current incarnation isn't a major game changer or really even much more of a threat than its predecessor, the T-90M, which, if you've seen the Armorcast video, is a fantastically snarky and fun. You know that from the T-90 suffers from the same problem. You can throw all the technology you want at a problem, but it just won't save you from outdated thinking and doctrine. Sorry, not sorry, commie boos. The T-14 is just more Russian junk powered by memes and propaganda, nothing more. So to finally close out this video, I thought I would channel my inner laser pig and do a lovely karaoke rendition of Short Man for that certain Russian in Moscow, but I neither want a channel strike nor to be brought before the Hague on a war crimes charge. So if you like this video, do me a solid, give me the big old thumbs up, maybe even subscribe. Let me know how much you hate communism or how you think it's never been tried before in the comments down below. With that, I'll see you in the next battlefield. Peace.